Hello, I'm Ruth, and I'm speaking from my studio, Get Quilts Done, which happens to be my channel also. And today I want to talk about scissors versus shears, or dressmaking shears versus tailor shears. What's the difference? And I want to demo on my tailor shears that I really enjoy having. So I'm just going to take a good look at this and what we have. And beforehand, I just want to mention that my mother taught me to sew. And in addition, I loved sewing from the beginning to the end. Once I started, I never looked back. And so I had a lot of practice and learning how to do it. So even when I take a break or I didn't use tailor shears for quite a few years, once I got back to using them, it was second nature. So I had that advantage, and I just would really like to share it with people. And maybe a lot of times people have tailor shears and they don't use them. And one of the reasons is they're not using them correctly, and they don't realize the advantage of having them. So I'm going to start with scissors, and these guys are wonderful. We have a lot of dexterity in our hands. We can move them around and get into tight places and turn around, and that's what these are really good for. I love having them. Yes, they're gold. They came with my sewing machine that I got for a birthday gift from my husband when I turned 60. So these are wonderful. And you can see they have two spots for two fingers, top and above. So they're lightweight, and this is something I put on it, so when I put it in my case, it's easier to get it in and out. Now we're moving up to shears. And what's the difference? Well, they're obviously bigger. I think you can actually measure them to see how big they are. But really what the test is where the fingers go. So if you could fit in more fingers on the bottom, the thumb is always on top, then they're shears. And I'm talking only about fabric shears and fabric scissors, okay? Just for those. So these cut, and you have a lot more strength to them. And you can see the obvious advantage when you're doing things. But these are what I call dressmaking shears, or dressmaker shears. And the advantage of these is that they're really lightweight, and you can get a lot of ergonomic ones. But for medium to lightweight fabric is about what they go. Anything medium to high, or fabric that's several layers of fabrics, more than two, like 3, 4, you want to go up to tailor shears. Now, tailor shears, I really can't show you the difference on a video. They're heavier. And because the steel is heavier, they can be sharper. And also the extra weight helps to steady your hand and makes for a smoother cut. I use them for medium to heavyweight fabric, and I also use them for batting. And you can see these have this extra spot right there, and that's for putting my hand, my one finger. Some of them will have an extra loop here for, or kind of goes like that. So it gives you a little extra strength with your pinky. These don't need it, believe me. And these are fantastic. I love using them. So here I am starting in the air. And the reason why I can do that is we do have guidelines, but we could push the limits with our hands because of the dexterity that we have in our hands. We can't do that with our backs. We always have to pick things up the right way, but our hands, we can move things around. And as soon as possible, we get to best practices. Notice I'm already on the table. I'm using the table to take up the weight. What my mother used to say was calling it ground the scissors. Of course, if you're on the floor, it's the same thing. You ground them. You use your whole hand because they're shears, and you can use your whole hand, all the strength, and they're very strong and they're very sharp, but the weight is taken up on the table. And see how I'm moving it around. I'm using a quilt as you go, or quilt as you piece method. So I'm cutting up the batting, and then I put it back together again, and I do the sides. So I'm never pushing the whole quilt into my domestic machine, even a large domestic machine. But see how I'm moving around. If I'm sewing something that I want to be straight or has turns on it, I just turn it and glide it on the surface that's taking up the weight. When I cut all the way to the end of the scissors. Each time I cut to the edge, up all the way to the edge, of course, unless you run out of something to cut. And this is what I've been doing now for about 3-4 years that I've put Tailor shears back into my studio. All right. I hope this helps. I hope that you have good information and you can go open up your scissors drawer wherever you keep them and take a better look at it, especially at your Tailor shears, and start to use them and consider buying some and just go back to basics and use these. I really love them. If you like what you see or what you saw, subscribe. I'm going to have another one coming, another video coming out about applying binding, and also like it, and you're welcome to leave comments. Thank you. Bye.